There are not enough words to tell you how I bombed. I mean, really awful. And so I cried all the way home and decided this I had to do something different. So I was working with a coach at the time, and I thought he would be sympathetic, but he wasn't. So he said, "So when are you going to stop crying and do something about it?"
So I am trying to figure out where to put my marketing dollars. And I don't mean that literally marketing dollars. I'm talking about my investment of me. And I really look to someone who explains networking on such a level, and the sales ability of me and what I do on such a way that it hits home. You know anybody like that, Celeste?
Well, that's kind of my job, helping people with their communication
Funny
skills.
you should say that.
Yes. But I am a big believer in talking to everybody who has their own perspective and their own take on it, plus their own solutions, because this way I have more tools in my arsenal when I am helping somebody with their public speaking. And I think that this is a great time to introduce into the right room our wonderful repeat guest, Lorraine Lane.
Yay! See, I'm really happy. Lorraine, we're happy to have you in the right room. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be a repeat guest.
Good. Well, this is where we bring business owners in and we hopefully they walk in with any questions that they would have and leave with a little bit of clarity around whatever you're going to talk about. So again, I'm Jane Parmel for everybody listening out there in TV land.
I'm Celeste DeCamps. And in the right room, we talk about story, strategy, and step. And that's where you come in, Lorraine. Tell us your story.
Yeah. So I was networking to start my business because I was told that was what would build my business and get me out there, and that um, other people would be my sales force, right? I bought into that myth. So when you're networking and have joined a group, one of the requirements is that you do a 10-minute presentation of your business, right? Well, I successfully avoided doing that for 2 years. and, and there was a membership chair who was on the ball and put me on the calendar. And she let me know that I was on the calendar a week before the date that I was going to do the presentation. And I totally blanked out and didn't remember until she called me the day before. "You're ready, right?" And I was like, well, I thought, you know what? I can stand in front of the room and train 40 managers. Can't be that hard, right? There are not enough words to tell you how I bombed. I mean, really awful. And so I cried all the way home and decided this I had to do something different. So I was working with a coach at the time, and I thought he would be sympathetic, but he wasn't. So he said, "So when are you going to stop crying and do something about it?" And I thought, well, I'm not ready to stop crying yet. But anyway, his challenge was get three, not one, but three 10-minute presentations ready for the spotlight. So I met the challenge, I got them ready. And then he said, "So how are you going to use these to market your business?" So what I did was I told several people who were looking for speakers that I could step in when somebody canceled. I could just step in. And I will tell you that was a game changer for my business, because what happened was I got a phone call like the night before, "Could you step in?" And I thought, okay, my only answer is yes. So I stepped in, did my presentation, and I started getting clients from that strategy, and it forced me, it forced me to be in the front of the room. And I realized most small business owners don't use that opportunity. It's free marketing. And when you give a presentation that's lackluster, doesn't do anything to promote your business, you're losing out on that opportunity. So from that, I developed a 6-week program to get people ready. And I learned so much from doing that, that people don't prepare. There's a whole way to prepare to set the stage so that you step in and your presentation takes off. People are not scrolling on their phones. So, and to do a presentation when you're on Zoom is very different than when you're in front of the room with a live audience. I learned that too. So
Unfortunately, we all did.
yeah, there's a lot to it. And people will say to me, but I'm not a speaker. You may not be a Tony Robbins, but you are speaking about your business all the time. All the time, whether you do a 30-second introduction, whether you're on a panel, doing a 10-minute presentation.
Whether you're in front of a room of 10, 20, 30 people, or you're one-to-one with somebody, that's the whole key. I think that, I know I've taken your advice many times over, because I think it's, like you said, we're in a society where everybody's scrolling. And I'll be honest with you, I've been in live meetings where the person is presenting and reading it off their phone, and they're talking to their feet. They have their head down, and simple presentation skills, simple communication skills, that the people just don't have. So again, 10 minutes, short amount of time. When you're not prepared, could be the longest amount of time ever. What would you say is one of the best strategies to at least get started? Because I like you said, you put it off, I think subconsciously or consciously, and I know, in talking to being a BNI coach, being a business coach, I have to talk people into doing, doing their story, doing their presentations. What's a good helpful way to start it, that it doesn't seem so overwhelming?
Yeah, it starts weeks before, because have you ever gone into, and you're the speaker, and the person who's going to introduce you says, "Oh, I forgot your bio on my printer."
Yeah.
So then they introduce you with, "Here's Jane. She's going to talk to us today."
Thanks.
Right. So immediately you're off spotlight, right? It's like you're scrambling because your introduction wasn't there, didn't say what you were going to talk about. So it scrambles your presentation. You're trying to recover for the first couple of minutes. So how you prepare yourself, always have a hard copy, right? And it's not a resume, it's an introduction. So I help people with that. And then how you start. Who are you talking to? What do they need to hear from you? Are there other speakers that have talked about the topic? I remember I was giving a keynote, and 2 speakers, one after another, spoke on the same topic. So the second speaker was so off that she just totally lost her audience, because she didn't ask enough questions. And, so that was a big, I'll never forget that. She was just so, knowing who has spoken before to this audience, what have they spoken about? Is your topic of interest to them, right? So and set yourself up for success. That's what I tell the people in my program. Let's set you up for success. And if you're not well trained on how to answer questions, don't let people ask questions during your presentation. You know, either you'll take questions at the end or you'll be in the back of the room. Because if you open yourself up to questions, the first thing people say, how much do you charge? You know, it's
True.
that's an oops.
Yep.
And how do you scramble back from that, you know? And so, and then wrapping up, because a good wrap up is not, well, that's it. That's not a good
Exactly.
bow on your package, right? So all of those pieces need to fit together, and we spend time on how to transition from one topic, one bullet to the next, right? Right? How you transition is so important.
Definitely.
Right. And this is why it's important to have a coach. I think people don't seem to understand you can't proofread your own work. You
Mm-mm.
need another set of eyes on it.
Yes.
That's why we have coaches and athletes. We have coaching for, directors doing a play, helping the actors. And for some reason, when it comes to effective communication, people seem to let that drop to the bottom
Right.
as something that's important until,
Mhm.
yes, they get up in front of a group of people and realize they're not effective and they're not engaging.
Right.
And then they sit there and go, well, I guess I'm just not good at it.
Right.
Instead of realizing that you get a coach
Mm-hmm.
and you get somebody who understands not just what you do, but your business.
Mm-hmm.
So, what you're doing as a business coach is really explaining that you have the message.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make it more powerful
Yeah.
and work with me to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the best reasons to have you on.
Mm-hmm.
It is to really explain to people that your key to success is being able to, with confidence and clarity, explain what it is you do and why people need you.
Right.
And I really applaud you, Lorraine, because I know the work you put into this. I
Mm-hmm.
know how passionate you are about it, and that you are talking from your own experience. And you're
Yes.
so great about being vulnerable about it
Exactly.
and yeah, and telling your story. And
Yeah.
I think that's probably what makes you so effective.
But I
I
think,
love. Go ahead. I'm sorry,
go,
Lorraine.
go ahead, Jane.
No, no, I was just gonna just add just a little caveat on that is I love when you show your vulnerability as well because you've always said to me and you just said before we even got started that avoidance you had down pat. You were you 2 years you were in a
Mhm.
group for 2 years and didn't have to present. I don't know how you did that. That's good.
I was really good at that. But I had the idea that if I did a good job with my clients, that would be enough,
Right.
right? That would speak for me. Well, that was a false belief for sure,
Right.
because when my coach, forced me to do three talks and get them out there, that really changed my business. It really changed it changed my confidence, that I could do this. And um, I actually began to have fun with it. I imagine,
Imagine that.
imagine, yes, this thing that I was so avoiding. And then I realized I must have lost a lot of business because I did not speak about my business and I did not introduce people into the work that I do. So I don't know how much business I lost, but I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did. Because when I started speaking, business started coming. So,
That's a really good gauge of whether or not you're effective.
mhm,
That is eye-opening and probably very distressing on some level, you know?
yeah. So many people, small business owners, don't realize the value of doing a good presentation and presenting well. You can give a ho-hum presentation, but when you capture people's attention and speak well, when people come up to you and say, I want to talk more about that,
It's everything.
Yeah.
It becomes everything.
Mhm.
And for them to see the difference themselves when they have somebody who will work with them and not just criticize, but to give real critiques, real solutions to
Mhm.
be better. And when they realize that even with a thimbleful of knowledge, how much more confident you come across. And that's just not that one time.
Right.
That's a tool you carry with you forever.
Yes, exactly. So the structure that I provide in the 6-week program, you can use over and over and over for a 30-second introduction, for a keynote, for a 10-minute presentation, for sitting one-on-one with a potential client. So, you know, we're speaking all the time about our business.
And with all of the investing that we do,
Yes.
I think that's one investment that is mostly overlooked.
Yes, I think so. I think so.
Definitely. Definitely. One thing I wanted to ask you before we move into something we call room service, because we're here in the right room. Um, well, actually, you know what? Let me get into the room service, because I think that'd probably be the best way to ask. What's one step that any of our listeners can take, and then literally in the next day, 2 days, the next week, they're drowning in marketing. They know they have to do a presentation, or maybe they don't even, maybe they have to realize they need to do a presentation. What can they start move? How can they start moving into clarity, getting the opportunities and the presentation set?
Okay, to start them off, I would say, what is one thing that you want an audience to take away from your talk, that you want them to remember? So that's one thing we work on, and he's, well, I want them to know that, I show up on time. It doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
What is unique about you? Okay. Nobody goes out there saying, I'm going to show up late to do my work with you, or I'm going to be dishonest. Those things are givens. And so when you waste your time saying those things, you're not differentiating yourself. And so what makes you special and different? And for some people, that takes a lot of work, but you are bringing yourself, what makes you special and different, and you need to be able to talk about that.
Cool.
And when you work with people, how do you get that process started? Because I think for a lot of people, when given that question, they said, I don't even know what makes me different. I'm doing the same thing everybody else is doing. I don't know. How do you help them get to that understanding of what makes them different, unique,
So
special?
what do your clients say back to you? Thank you for, okay, what do they say back to you? That's gold, okay? They probably don't say, oh, you're like every other coach that okay, there's something unique about you. And so you need to hear those words. And if you haven't paid attention, I give people a way of asking that question of past clients so that they can hear what people say. So have to do some pre-work. You know, you don't just pull a 10-minute presentation out of the air, I learned. Um, so, so, so
Sometimes.
asking those questions and then bringing that into your presentation to say, this is what makes me different, why you want to work with me, why other people have worked with me. So
Right.
that's a start. and, and there's
That's
a
a
whole
great
lot more.
start.
Yeah.
That's very good advice. I think people don't, I think they almost feel uncomfortable saying, well, what did you like about me?
Yeah.
But the
True.
way you're phrasing it by saying to somebody, I'm so glad I helped you. And
Yes.
could you just, say a little bit more and be a
Mhm.
little bit more specific so that I know that what I'm doing that helped you would help somebody else.
Exactly. And so I give them the questions to ask. So then it isn't like, I need to know what you liked about me. There's some good questions to ask
Mhm.
and reconnect people with why they liked working with you. And a couple of my clients have come back and said, do you know they hired me again? because of the questions I asked. Yay.
Yeah, they needed a little reminder. Yep, that's good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that is a good excuse too. To right, like you said, to talk to past clients again and keep top of mind. And just,
Yeah.
whether you need their input on what they find special about you or not, but it's a
Yeah.
good way, a good way to get back, and instead of just calling them up going, "Do you need me again?
Right. Yeah.
Any chances?"
Yeah.
It.
Well, so they set it up so that they say, I'm working with someone to help me get a 10-minute presentation. And one of the things I have to do is call past clients and ask these questions. Are you willing, to spend 10 minutes with me? And go, oh, sure.
Great.
Right. Yeah.
That is great. That is really that's a it's like a reverse engineering of it. It's a nice way to do it. I like
Yeah.
that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, listen, not to change subjects, but one of the questions that we ask everybody that comes into the right room is, what does it mean to be in the right room? What does it mean for you personally when you're in the right room?
When I'm in the right room, there's an energy, right? And so I create right rooms with people because I'm hosting 3 in-person networking events every month. And I don't do 30-second introductions. I don't do presentations. We present and we connect. So you're networking to connect, right? Most structured networking events don't promote talking to each other. You're sitting there listening to other people, but not talking and not connecting. So I have hundreds of exercises that promote conversation, meeting people, and then talking about what they learned in the conversation when they talk about their business. So it's promoting, and my group is now over 1,000 people. I passed 1,000 people mark this week.
Oh, cool.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I started with 0 and I now have 1,000 people in my alliance. So I'm just real happy with that. But, people are coming, are showing up. So more and more people are showing up toward that. So in those, you can feel the energy of people, getting to talk to each other. And we have to know how to talk to each other without feeling sleazy and without, because I'm saying we're here because we want to create business. That's the agenda. Okay. And so how do you make connections? When we were little kids, it was, you want to be my friend?
Right.
As adults, we don't do. You want to be my friend? You want to do business with me? No, we don't do that. So
Some people do.
yeah, when they throw business cards in your face.
Yeah, exactly.
But
That's the equivalent.
we want to do it in a way that feels comfortable and asking questions. So most people don't know how to ask questions. So I give them questions and they have fun with it. So it's just, that is a right room. That is the right room.
Very good.
And what we want to do now, because we don't want you to go just yet, you have mentioned now a 6-week course. I would like you to have this time now to talk about that. I believe you have a master class coming up. So if you could enlighten our audience, who I'm sure at this point would like to know more.
All right. So the master class is 3 tips that I share with people on presentations, okay, so that you get a taste of what the 6 weeks is like. And that's a free class. It's on Monday, March 2nd at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you want to register, do you want me to put the registration in the chat or just give it here?
We'll put it in the comments. We'll put it with the video.
Okay. So, and then the 6-week course starts on March 5th at 4 p.m. for 6 weeks. And during those 6 weeks, you will get a chance to do your presentation live and get feedback. And it's a small group. I keep it at 10 to 12 people because I do individual coaching during the 6 weeks. So, and years later, people are coming back to me saying, I'm still doing this, I'm still doing that. So yeah, it's I had one person who said, oh, I get presentations all the time, but I'm going to sign up anyway. And then we were in COVID and she had to do her presentation online and she bombed. She said, oh, this is hard when I don't have a live audience. So, yeah, there is a difference between being online and with your audience right in front of you. So she recovered though.
That's
We
okay.
we recovered.
That's good. A little bit of a bruised ego, but okay. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
All
So
right.
yeah, it's a marketing tactic that I think people don't build in enough.
That's true. They have to, that's something that they really have to consider, like you said, free marketing. You have an opportunity to get up in front of people, you know,
Take the opportunity, right?
right, do the
Or
professional
and,
equivalent.
and do it well, or you are unmarketing your business.
Exactly. That is powerful. Definitely got to think about that. Well, thank you so much, Lorraine. It is so wonderful to hear your wealth of knowledge, your tidbits, your I love the avoidance because we're all guilty. We're all guilty. But it you know what? It makes it human, it makes it personable, and it gives everybody the grace to know that you can um avoid things sometimes that you don't want to do. It's okay, but
But
there
at
has
your
to come a
expense.
point where you understand how much it can impact
Mm-hmm.
your movement forward. So we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I'm very appreciative of the actionable steps
Mm,
that you gave. And I think your masterclass is something everybody should invest in if they would like to up their game, be more confident, and be clear about their messaging. And the only way to do that is to have somebody who knows what they're doing
mm,
to really help you through it. So
mhm.
thank you so much, Lorraine, for being in the right room.
And
Okay.
making more right rooms along the way. Thank you.
Okay. Good to see you both.
You too.